So I want to tell you guys about a conversation I had like about 2 years ago now. I was in a coffee shop getting some coffee with a guy, and Tyler the Creator came up. For those of you who don't know, I'm a pretty big Tyler the Creator fan. So we were talking about him, and I go, oh, I think he's great. I can't wait to see what his next project is. Can't wait to see what he does next. Of course, this was before his most recent album. So his last album at that point was Call Me If You Get Lost, right? I was like, can't wait for new music from him. Great artist, right? And the guy I was talking to, he goes, yeah, he's pretty solid. Igor was great. Igor was a fantastic album, but Call Me If You Get Lost was just a bunch of brag rap at the end of the day. He used that term specifically, just a bunch of brag rap, right? I think, if I'm being honest, I think the conversation probably just kept going. Normally I went, oh, whatever, and we kept talking, but that statement stuck in my head a little bit, because I was like, that's weird. That's a weird thing to say. Weird for a lot of reasons, but particularly because I think it's, a statement that's like inherently reductive, right? Like, you could say that almost about anything. Like, I think Igor's a great album too, and he loved Igor. It'd be very easy for me to go, Igor's just a bunch of love songs, right? It's technically another true statement, like going, this is a bunch of brag rap, but doesn't mean they're any less good, you know what I mean? I thought it was interesting for that reason, but also because I think, in looking at this conversation for the years after it happened, it kind of sticking in my head. I think that the reason that it's always stuck in my head so much, thinking about it all these years, is because I think it kind of points to a conversation that has been going on around me unknowingly. You know when like somebody says something and it's almost like just a moment of like, oh, that's what this thing has been. I feel like it points very well to a conversation about what emotions are acceptable for people to have articulated in the art they consume. In this situation, I think is a particularly good example, because what makes love a more artistic emotion in this, we'll use that term, I think that's kind of a weird term to use here, but it's the only thing that makes sense in my head. What makes love a more artistic emotion than confidence, right? Because I don't like that term, brag rap. I'm going to stop using that from here on out. It feels a little weird to me, so let's call it, confidence stuff, art about confidence. What makes love a better emotion than confidence to put into art? Nothing, right? Like, it's weird that this conception exists. I think there are two ways to go with this conversation. We could, one, try and figure out why people view some emotions as acceptable for their art and other emotions to not at all be acceptable to be consumed in art. I think that's probably what I'm going to think about most here, because I don't really believe in the other angle. I think the other angle, this could very easily turn into a video talking about, what emotions are best to put out in art. And I don't know if that's something I'd be interested in really doing. Not because I think that, I don't know, I just think art is already so subjective. It's like, how are we now going to be like, this is great for art? Certain emotions obviously play better to more people. I think, it's kind of a spoiler alert for this whole talk, I think that's one of the reasons love is such an easy emotion to put into art, because so many people can relate to it. It's very easy to understand off like a, something like that. You kind of just, all right, yeah, this is a love song, I can get into it. You're not expecting much, whereas let's say you make art that is political in nature, there's a lot more there. What viewpoint are they coming at this from? XYZ, Love is a fairly universal human emotion that everybody can relate to in one way or another. I would go as far as saying this is why love songs about any sort of relationship can end up doing well. Love songs where people cheat, love songs that are about straight relationships, gay relationships, anything. All of these songs will do well and have mass appeal because at the end of the day, they're about love. People can understand love, right? I think that's an okay thing to say. So from there, I think you could extrapolate that the best emotions to make art about would be the emotions that people can most relate to. I don't think that's true, but I'm saying in terms of like what people approve of, that is probably how it kind of works, right? I think that like any effort to make it genuine, like these are the good emotions for art and these are the bad ones, would not only be sort of in vain, I think it'd also be almost anti-art to an extent. Not that that's something I like. Like, I feel like that's such a, you're being anti-art, like who, I don't think that's something we need to start doing. I don't think I need to start labeling people that disagree with an idea as being anti-art, because that's a little ridiculous now. But I think it would be sort of discouraging to make those types of art if you were to say this is the supreme emotion to make art about, this is the worst emotion to make art about, right? I think that the only hierarchy you can make is a hierarchy of what people will accept, and the things people accept are the most universal. And obviously, this changes over time, right? And almost sort of a bridge here, political art's a great example of how these things change. Back in so much of what we read now, right, in school and stuff like that, books that are, let's say, against slavery or anti-racism or anything like that, right? Books that have to deal with this sort of political subject matter, when those were released, they were completely and utterly seen as like, this is not relatable, this is bad, this is controversial. And they would honestly probably be met with a very similar reaction to the way people look at a lot of political stuff in art now, of like, I don't want politics in my art. They'd be totally saying that to the people making those stuff back then. In fact, there's much record of them saying that exact thing. Of course, now as we've all progressed in these great ways and we don't have it's almost, unfortunately almost, everybody agrees with, not unfortunately almost, that the progress is bad. It's unfortunate there are still people that disagree, to clarify there. Now that like it's a pretty universally accepted thing though, that some of these old institutions are wrong and bad, we can read them and they can be some of the most mass appealing art, because like we have shifted what is acceptable to a point where it becomes universal. Honestly, I think it'd maybe be a fun exercise, not what I'm going to do here because I don't like to make this a show that is very much defined by a political center, but I think it could be a fun exercise to be like, what changes do you think will happen? You know, what art do you think is now seen as fringe or too political or something like that, that one day they'll be reading in classrooms going like, this is one of the best books ever, you know? Movies, TV shows, songs, albums, like all these things. Because I think there will be lots of it. I think there's going to be, especially we live in a time of such change in all sorts of directions, that there's no way there isn't a new sort of like, these are the things that are good coming along soon, right? Moving away from that though, I think politics is a great example of an emotion that is not typically accepted in art. Again, with that caveat of not typically accepted in the present, because if you move along, it can be accepted. So why is this an emotion that's not enjoyed? I think a part of it could be it's not universal, right? It could lead to a lot of people disagreeing with stuff. I think there's also a case to be made that it's because, and this is something that I'm sort of empathetic to, I don't know. I think the type of guy who's running around going like, you shouldn't be at all political as an artist is an annoying guy. I really do. I think that it's fine to be political in art. I think oftentimes it's almost mandatory to be sometimes, you know. It's really hard to make art that's completely apolitical. But I'm not, I think, you know, now this conversation, because of the way the internet works, for some people has turned into almost like artists need to do politics for me. I think that's also a bad way to go. I don't like that either. I understand why some people are like, I don't want this. I don't want to have to think about this when I'm listening to music or watching TV. Not because I'm like, these are enlightened people who are deep apolitical gods or whatever, just because I think that like so often, because of the way the internet works with these echo chambers, we forget that like the average time that people are just consuming art is they're coming home after work and just flipping on the TV. Obviously, me and you, as people who are into this stuff and nerds on the internet, refer to that as like, oh, that is art, that is media, that is content, that is performance, right? Whatever you want to call it. To most other people though out in the world, they're like, I'm watching TV right now. Why are you? Next time, if you really want to burn a bridge with somebody, next time they're watching TV, be like, I love this art. And they'll be like, okay, so you're a nerd, like you're a weirdo, you know? I think it's important to remember that in any sort of discourse, right? This discourse is going to be for us. But even past that, I can't count the number of times I've been around people who go like, music shouldn't be political. And there's some nuance in like what I just said that I want to make sure I get through, especially because this is turning into be more political pain talk than I've ever done before. I think as much as I understand where people are like, I don't want this thing I'm watching right now in front of me to take me out of the distraction that TV usually is for me, right? I understand why people have that approach. I do think it's a ridiculous approach to say that this should never be in it, right? I think that's an equally ridiculous approach to go, there should never be any art that has a political message, because I think that's just ignoring the way that the world works, honestly. Like, all art is political in one way or another. Obviously, when you're a kid watching SpongeBob, you don't see it that way, and that at that point would be considered an example of apolitical art. But like as you get older, you kind of realize there's always going to be an edge of something in everything, right? So I think that idea, that emotion's unacceptable to put in art, which I'm referring to this here as political emotions because, I mean, I don't know, that's a shaky term, right? I hope you guys understand what I mean by that. I don't mean like I don't mean like Lenin writing a book is political emotions in art. I mean more so like emotions that have to do and are derivative of political stuff, right? But moving back on course here to like, why don't people like this? Why don't they want this in their art? I think it's actually fairly easy for this one. I think it's because people either A, believe that all art is for escapism. I think that's a more common take than we actually, like, I think that's a more common take than I usually myself would give it credit for, that art is just for escapism's sake. With that being said, that's probably why people don't like that, right? Even though I disagree with them vehemently. Then I kind of want to center back here, as I finish up this painting, to what got me thinking about this whole topic in the beginning, confidence. Why is confidence not an emotion people want in their art? Because I, for one, many times in my life, been like, I wish there were more songs about confidence. That's honestly why I love so much of Kanye's early work, is because it's such confident music, you know? Like, it's music that's genuinely just like, about like, I'm the guy right now, I'm doing the thing, and this is awesome, and I'm awesome, and everything's awesome. You know, it's surprisingly hard for me in my experience to find music like that, and that's why I find that so appealing. But I think that, like, I don't know, I mean, I guess there's a chance here, and this is hilarious to come to this conclusion after putting so much work into, you know, this whole train of thought derivative of this conversation here, right? But I think there's a chance that the guy I was talking to was just, like, wrong, that people do like confidence in art, right? Because, I mean, early Kanye is the most popular thing ever, right? It's like everybody, I feel like it's so rare to meet somebody who's not like, his early stuff is so cool to me. People that don't like that kind of music, people that do like it, like, if you throw on Kanye from 2005 for any white mom, they'll be on a table in seconds, and then you'll be like, oh, this is Kanye. They'll get down from that table in seconds. They'll be like, this guy's the worst person on earth. Do you know what he does to people? And it's like, now they're right. They're a huge vindication for the white moms there, right? I mean, that's... But yeah, I don't know if confidence in art is maybe as unpopular of an emotion as I came here thinking it was because of this one conversation. And that'd be kind of a hysterical conclusion to come to after putting all this work into this, right? I once knew a guy, not once knew, I still know him to this day, who made all his playlists only around complex emotions that he has that he can't find songs for. And the whole reason he did that is because he was like, I can find a love song in seconds if I want to find a love song. But finding songs about Sonder or existentialism takes me so long, I need to put these songs in a playlist. And I always think back to that because it's so true that the range of emotions experienced in art are so slim. I mean, how much art is made about being angry? There's not a lot. Like, you could look, but the first thing that comes to my mind right now is like punk music. Punk music is very much, this is art about being angry, discontented. Grunge had a moment, and I think that that's more angsty than angry, but let's group them together here because I think that's a kind of a hair-splitting distinction. Outside of, like, that's huge, obviously. I mean, I love punk music. Some of you know, I got some of my start there in terms of what I listen to, if you've watched a lot of the Paint Talks, but that's small in comparison to the amount of love songs there are, right? So, are these emotions acceptable just because they're universal? Is it something else completely that I'm not even thinking about here? Being sad is probably the second. I feel like love and then sad and happy are the two big other splits that come off of what people make art about, right? And I think that's really interesting. Because those are three really universal emotions, right? Love, I feel like, is on top, not just because it's universal, but because it's universal and can move people fast. Like, if I ask you, have you ever been happy? You can, like, straight face go, yeah. If I ask you, have you ever been sad before? You can go, yeah, of course, right? Maybe sometimes in odd scenarios, I'll ask you, have you ever been so happy you cried? And you'll smile thinking about it. Or have you been so sad that you fell into a depression? You'll get sad thinking about it, right? But for the most part, these are emotions that the word happy and sad doesn't stir quite like the word love does, right? Being like, have you ever been in love? Have you ever felt love? Almost immediately makes somebody feel something. And maybe that's why it's the biggest emotion that art kind of makes from? I don't know, what's the technical term there for that? I think, like, something that I deal with as I get more into painting and stuff like that, right, is I feel like I make so many, like, I think so much about stuff like this, right? Even, like, in and out of Paint and Talk I do, but at the same time, I don't think about this when I'm making my art, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Like, would I be a better painter if I took a conversation like this, right, got off camera after I edit this or listen back to it or whatever, and try to think about what emotion do I want to put into my art? Because I don't know what emotion's here, I just do it and then I try to feel it after. Speaking of which, this is a good painting, I think. I like this. Again, this is what I'm kind of saying here, in terms of I feel an emotion in the eyes and the face, but I don't know what it is. And I think part of the thing I like in my art at this stage in it, which is still, I feel I forget sometimes 6 months into me painting at all, something I like about the paintings is that I get to kind of think about what does this evoke, what is this feeling within what I just did here, you know, because I try to keep it very intuitive. I don't like the word intuitive. What's the word when you're just kind of like fluid? I don't know. You guys know what I mean. Anyways, this painting will be up next Monday with you know, all the other paintings from the week. Let's see how they come out, guys. You know what I mean? So go follow the Instagram to see that. And also, a lot of you guys are artists. I think the last time I polled this, it was like 89% of you are artists. So what emotions do you put into your art? Do you not think about it like me, or are you like, I make a lot of art about this subject? I'd love to hear. And until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This is Paint Talk episode 167. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.